I love first-person shooters, from Stalker to Blood to Fear. But one game surpasses all of them for me, the unparalleled, the one and only Dusk. It's hard to overstate how much I love Dusk. It's my favorite shooter. So, what is Dusk? It's a boomer shooter developed by David Symanski, produced by Dev Oshry, and with a soundtrack by Andrew Hulshult. Let's talk about the difficulty first. Dusk has 5 difficulties. Accessible is for someone's first game or shooter. It's incredibly forgiving. Go easy is also really easy, and Duskmare is the one-hit kill difficulty. So realistically speaking, there are 2 options you should consider. I Can Take It and Zero Miedo. I Can Take It is really breezy in terms of difficulty, at least in the first episode. The later episodes are harder, but the difficulty never feels like that it's very challenging. Now Zero Miedo, which literally translates to no fear, that is the real shit. Don't confuse it as just another step up. It's like the difference between fighting your annoying cousin and fighting while getting mugged unarmed in an alley. You might think I am exaggerating. I am, but not by a lot. Zero Miedo means all enemy attacks deal twice as much damage. Enemies close the gap twice as fast. One of the most common enemies, the mage, attacks more frequently. Also, your armor removes less of the damage, and all enemy projectiles move a bit faster. In short, a lot changes. I do like this difficulty. My Zero Miedo experience is either screaming that it's bullshit or some of the most fun I have had with the game. If you are confident in your FPS skills, definitely try this difficulty first. The gameplay in this video is all Zero Miedo. So what's Dusk about?
Kill the intruder.
Yeah, the game just drops you here. One of the first things that is noticeable about Dusk is its aesthetic. It looks like Quake, and that was the intention. Quoting the producer Dev Oshry, ideally we want Dusk to look like software rendered Quake 1 at its worst and modded source port Quake 1 at its best. The graphics option definitely give you that range from an ultra pixelated experience to a smoother one. There's even color filters. That being said, episode 1 levels are designed with limited palette in mind, episode 2 and 3 without that, so that's slightly confusing. I changed the settings around a bit while capturing gameplay, so some parts look different. Experiment and figure out what you like, and if you don't want to, I think the default settings are still the best looking ones. While Dusk does emulate the look of Quake, it is much more detailed than Quake in terms of the look of the levels and environments. It's more like the details of a build engine game level, like that of Blood. Dusk feels even denser than those sometimes. Dusk starts in rural Pennsylvania, where David Symanski grew up and lives in. It goes through the underground sewers, abandoned mines, a ranch and a town and a church, but with some dramatic lighting they can still look great. The game keeps changing locations and keeping things fresh. The second episode instantly changes things up with large Stalker inspired factories. Dusk's color palette can be a bit drab, especially at the start, but going deeper into the game it gets more colorful and saturated, and by the middle of the second episode we are getting places. Grounded? Fuck no. We are now fighting in the mysterious facility in the sky. A level can have a lot of moving parts, and there's something impressive to see in all of them. Sometimes there are multiple impressive things. Then there's episode 3 of Dusk. I won't show much of that, but it's easily the most visually impressive. And I don't mean visual as technically. Dusk uses the limitation it creates to create effect. It's like an artist using a single brush to create something great. Dusk doesn't just use the retro tag to reduce the amount of details needed. Its retro aesthetic is an art style in and of itself. The enemies themselves fit perfectly with the areas. I really like the enemy designs in this game. From the KKK mages, the redneck with the chainsaw, these exposed ribcage farm animals, these scarecrows that come to life suddenly, they all look great. And these are just the enemies in the first 2 levels of the game. Dusk has some great visual variety in enemies. Each new episode introduces more new enemies. All of these enemies are easy to notice and differentiate as well. Even going at 100 km per hour speed like you can in Dusk, being able to identify everything on screen in a glance goes a long way in making Dusk more fun to play and look at. It's not a game where enemies and levels mix together and you can't even tell what's the background and what's the enemies. These enemies are well animated too, with the projectile throwing ones having distinct cues before attacking as well. The weapons of Dusk are more on the simpler side. They still look good, I would say, except the assault rifle. I don't like how it looks. But their appeal is mostly in what they do to the enemies. The guns in Dusk propel the enemies backward or outright jibs them into red mist and gore chunks. Dusk looks like an old school shooter, but it doesn't skimp on this violent effect. Some of this shit would make old PCs explode. Dusk in the gameplay department as well feels like it has something more to it that takes it beyond the games it's inspired by. The moment to moment gameplay in Dusk is excellent. The highest compliment I can probably give to a shooter is that this feels like Dusk. Dusk raised the bar. Now I play random boomer shooters on Steam and they feel like, I don't know, afternoon or evening or some shit. Dusk movement is very easy to learn, but I find the bunny hopping in Dusk satisfying, mainly due to its sound. Besides that, there is also a crouch slide. Dusk's movement has some interesting quirks as well, like the Y-axis isn't locked, so you can do full mid-air flips in this game. The amount of air control you have is insane as well. The other thing is the 6 degrees of freedom water movement that Dusk has. Nice touch, even though it might not be the most useful. Combat in Dusk is basically moving around groups of enemies and shooting them while moving. The enemies mostly throw fast projectiles or are melee enemies that can close the gap fast. Dusk throws a lot of enemies at you, all of which attack in different rhythms. All damage in Dusk is avoidable. The mages throw fireballs and reference old shooters, while the Black Phillips move around shooting, I don't know, coagulated blood. The leathernecks chase you down with chainsaws, the scarecrows come to life and shotgun blast you. The very tanky fork maidens throw these insanely fast and damaging magic projectiles. Some of the later enemies have some unique quirks to them, like the Wendigo, which is actually invisible until shot. I won't go over all the enemies here and not spoil any in episode 3. An arena in Dusk balancing all the different enemy types using your whole arsenal feels amazing. Even the melee sword feels nice to use, which sounds like thwacking a bag of meat. The only weapon I don't like is the pistol. It has its uses, that is, I want to save ammo for all my other weapons, but it feels too weak. The one enemy I don't like are the rats. These stupid ankle nibblers are the worst. They have a bit more health so they don't die from a single pistol or assault rifle shot. I hate them. I am not a fan of the bosses in Dusk either. I don't find it much fun to attack a single enemy in Dusk. The combat works best when multiple enemy types are there. There are boss fights with multiple enemies as well, but they are not that hard either, especially in ones where the different ones deal damage to each other or start infighting. I do like a few of the episode 3 bosses however. but mostly I don't find these boss fights enjoyable. The arsenal you have itself isn't anything exceptional in terms of variety or uniqueness, but each weapon feels great. The double-barrel shotgun is boomy and jibs fodder enemies instantly. The sharp noise of the rifle as it shot makes the enemy fly backward. The metallic noise of the riveter followed by the explosion, all suitably satisfying. Turning a room full of enemies into a fine red mist of blood that shows everyone's the same on the opposite end of a double-barreled shotgun. Dusk also has power-ups like this fast firing, which makes the assault rifle shred enemies. Or you can turn the game into super hot.
Takes the power.
There is one weapon, however, that's unique to Dusk: the crossbow. The weapon is amazing. Crossbow bolts go through every wall and every enemy in the game, dealing damage to everything it goes through. Feel like you will get jumped after opening a door? Unfairly ambush your ambushers instead. That's not all, you can trigger switches and fly using it. The crossbow lets you fly and skip parts of the game because the recoil is enough to carry a player. The crossbow feels like it belongs in an immersive sim instead. It also belongs in Dusk. Dusk's levels have an immersive semi-openness to them, with how much exploration is incentivized, ways to creatively skip content. In fact, you can beat every level pacifist, that is, without killing any enemy. Even the bosses can be skipped. There's also some fun interactivity, like you can pick up a piece of viscera, light a fire, and cook it for a health bonus. You can find a barrel and get over parts of the environment to get something just out of reach. You can find a bed, take a nap for a morale boost, which is this game's armor, or just take a book and flush it down the toilet. Obviously, it's not an immersive sim, and most of the time the way to go is just shooting the enemies, but these little touches make me enjoy the levels more. But there's not much reason to skip parts of the levels in Dusk, as the levels themselves are amazing. Each level has at least one big fight. Dusk levels range from cramped hallways to open areas, often both of those in the same map. After moving through tight atmospheric corridors, the game often opens up to an arena full of enemies. The best part of these levels, however, is the fact that they keep surprising. One level to the next is never the same. Each level has a unique thing going. Dusk is one of those rare few games, I will say, that not only has no bad levels, but progressively gets better and better as well. And the later levels really go all the way in showing the insanity. These levels are also connected to one another and give a sense of cohesion to the whole thing. It's not 100% connected. It's not Half-Life, except when it is Half-Life. It's the sound design that brings Dusk's moment-to-moment gameplay together. The environment sounds great. David Symanski even used a recorder in rural Pennsylvania to record some of the original sound design. As much as I love all other parts of Dusk, it's the sound design and the music that I love the most about it. The guns sound as good as the environment, but it's the enemy sound that stick out the most. The enemy cries in this game are great. Even after fighting all these enemies several hundred times, none of their audio strings got even a bit annoying. Mixed in with this is the music. Dusk has over 150 minutes and 43 tracks off, meaning there is a track for every single level in Dusk and some more to spare for special encounters and things like that. I love almost every single one of these tracks. Andrew Hulshult nails both the darker and more sinister tracks and the frantic music that plays during the combat. The levels already felt fresh from one to the next. The soundtrack just seals the deal. The quintessential Dusk atmosphere would be impossible without these tracks. Dusk's atmosphere serves its story as well. There are large levels you explore and get greeted with artillery. And sometimes there's this dark rusted area that serves its Lovecraftian themes. Dusk's story isn't really told so far as it is pieced together by the levels you go through. Some parts are told to you, some parts you need to figure out yourself. I like a cohesive campaign shooter, figuring out why I am there shooting and killing who I am killing. Dusk delivers on that. There's a surprisingly intriguing plot beneath Dusk. In episode 1, you fight the cult, while the leader Jacob is always at the back, looking at you, laughing at you, and sometimes even congratulating you. The first look into something going on deeper you see in Dusk is when you get to the entrance of the town of Dusk. There's a military there, seemingly sent to contain Dusk's cult and supernatural activities, but have gotten corrupted themselves. Maddened by the cult, the mad scientists create more and more twisted creations. They release the Wendigos from the deep underground, and their abilities created from the infernal machine powered by blood and channeling the members of the cult with energy. And in all of it, Dusk doesn't take itself too seriously. It has a lot of jokes sprinkled around, many references to both movies and other games. There will be spoilers ahead, mainly because I want to talk about episode 3 right now and the end of episode 2. So, in the middle of episode 2 comes the Escher Labs. The research there goes wrong. Very wrong. Reality begins to warp around. A dig has been started by Jacob. He wants to open the portal to the Nameless City, another dimension from which the power of the cult originates. Dusk kills the guardian protecting the portal and enters into the Nameless City, an alternate reality dimension and home to twisted beings like the Horror and Cart Dogs and the Bone Balls. The player makes his way through the dimension, finding a city and crypts where all the monsters live. He makes his way to a church, which is then destroyed by a massive meat tornado to reveal a portal underground. This portal leads to an area that is populated with the monsters from episode 1 again. This is followed by the most mind-bending level in Dusk, and maybe in any FPS game I have ever played. A world created using Dusk's corrupted memories. Finally, Dusk faces a challenge to determine if he is worthy to face Jacob.
Show us that you are worthy.
This level is amazing, probably the hardest level in Dusk. It spawns waves and waves of enemies, different combinations in a relentless onslaught, and ends with a boss fight of the creations and guardians together. Finally, you face Jacob. He is my favorite boss fight in the game. In fact, the only one I like. His attack incentivizes constant movement, and keeping close to him can be a death sentence, so aiming is key as well. Jacob doesn't have a lot of health, but makes up for it by being hard to hit. I always had a soft spot for like the player bosses, and Jacob does that well. Killing him opens up a staircase to the top, and the game reveals this.
He was worthy, you know, and he accomplished so much. But then you came along. You who were stronger. You who were faster. You I like better. Who did you expect at the end of all of this? God? The devil, perhaps? No. It's just
I'm not pronouncing that, is the surprise final boss of the game. I don't find this fight mechanically satisfying and a bit too easy, but it's Stephen Waite. His voice itself makes the final fight worth it, let alone the fact that probably what is my favorite track in Dusk plays here as well. After you whittled his health down to 1, the fight stops.
Enough! You are indeed worthy. And so now, my power is yours. Who you were before is insignificant. Who you are now is inconceivable. But here you shall remain till I have need of you again. For one must always reign beneath Dusk.
Ending the video with what I started with, Dusk is my favorite shooter. From the graphics to the sound design, level design and music, I love almost every part of it. Dusk is exceptionally meshing all these together to make one great whole of a game. Once done with the campaign, you can go secret hunting in the levels, try to beat death times or try your hand at the Duskmere difficulties. There's also the endless mode. I'm not a huge fan. I like exploring the levels again much more. I tried Dusk multiplayer, but it was dead, so that was a bummer. Overall, if you like shooters, give Dusk a shot. It's a great entry point to boomer shooter games, and I feel fans of the old games will be able to enjoy this as well.